I've heard it said that living life at a young age is like being a sponge thrust into the ocean. You absorb what is around you. If you're around people who are supportive and positive, that's how you look at the world. Before the beginning of this school year, the National Center for Education Statistics predicted that 54.8 million students in the United States would begin school in the fall. Throughout the year, those 54.8 million children will spend approximately 1,000 hours in school. That is around 12,000 hours for children who attend school from first grade to graduation. During this time, educators and administrators are trusted with the formative years of our younger generation's lives. Social psychologists have found that our sense of self is often shaped by the situations we find ourselves in and the people we are surrounded by. As students at the University of Pennsylvania, we have been shaped by numerous educators and administrators, some for the better and some for the worse. These are our stories.
The way I got into my old private schools as a preschooler, my mother tells me this story. She would take me to go into the exam room. The woman who was examining me would say the questions a certain way, and I'd be like, I don't understand. And my mother had to frame the question in a certain way, and I got the question right. When I was in 3rd and 4th grade, I went to a majority black school, and the professors had such low expectations of all their other students, and they came across a student who was actually smart, or rather had been brought up in a way that, cultivated her intelligence. They didn't know what to do. So eventually both teachers had to warm up to me because my mother had to get on to them, and mother filed formal complaints and all of that to the school and got the teachers in trouble because they wouldn't deal with me. And even though I was not exactly the child they gave up on me and wanted to, because they gave up with the other students. None of the other students in the class had gotten the attention I had gotten. None of the other students made a fuss. All the other students, performed their typical rambunctious black child role. And it caused the teachers to just give up all hope. And when they found me, they were so accustomed to mediocre that they were themselves perpetuating that they just didn't know how to deal with the exceptional. And they only dealt that with me, not to the other kids. They didn't see me and say, oh, these other kids have potential. They just saw me and just dealt with me individually. And I felt very bad for those other kids. And today, I don't know where those kids are. I don't even think they might be, excelling. Some of them probably, because they probably met a teacher who actually cared. Others, I think they're still in that town, probably doing whatever it is that they're doing. And teachers really need to understand that you impact the child directly. It's one thing to go home and your parents tell you one thing, but when a teacher does it, the teacher is supposed to make the child feel smart, make the child feel good, see the good in that child that they're probably not going to see anywhere else, because you can't count on that at home. You really can't. Not all children learn the same. Some are kinesthetic learners and need to hold it in their hand. That's how I am. I really had to hold it in my hands to understand, especially with math. And that's why I love reading. Look at the words, see the words, understand. Some people just have to study once and they know. People have different experiences and they shape the way that they are, who they are, how they see the world, and what they learn. If you don't cater to that and you have these expectations you come in with, you're hindering that child. If it's a black child and you think, oh, they grew up in a single parent household and low income family like I did, you have these preconceived notions that may or may not be true, or are true but aren't the end all be all. I grew up with a single mother. We didn't have a lot of money. We relied on our family a lot, but she invested so much in my education and in me that I excelled. And that's why I excel, despite my circumstance. And that's what professors have to do. Put that amount of effort into that child and understand where they're coming from. And not limiting and putting them in that box just because they come from a single parent, low income household, that they're gonna end up a certain way. That's not true. When I had those certain professors who helped me, they saw something in me and cultivated it. They said, Christy, you're really good at this. Let me help you. Christy, you're obviously having issue with this, but that's because I'm presenting it in this way. Let me help you.
Mr. Jeffrey Arms is one of the director of admissions at Deerfield. and he, during my time there, was the only black man on campus, or black man in admissions on campus, and had been for the last 15 years or so at that point. So that was 09 to 2013. And he was, subliminally responsible for bringing all the minority students in. So this man, everyone changed my life, but he did it for the better. He's the one that I first met at a boarding school fair in New York City, and he remembered me, came back to New York to interview me, and then after that, when I got on campus, took care of me so well, like I was his own daughter. And then sophomore year, he became my advisor officially, and while he was out here traveling the country trying to recruit other minority students, he definitely made time for me. He is the one that took me to lunch and was like, you need to go abroad. And I was like, wait, why? I love Deerfield. How naive I was back then. And then, sure enough, I applied. He sent in my recommendation. I got in. He's part of the reason that I had a fantastic year abroad. I came back and he was still so supportive of everything. He is the one, got another story, sorry. So he's the one that definitely, when I said I want to go to UPenn and I'm only applying ED and that's it, he was like, you need backup, so I believe in you, you got this. When my college advisor, Mr. Berger, he didn't think I could get in, partly because at Deerfield I wasn't a straight A student, and that wasn't that I was lazy, it was a little harder, and that senior year I just didn't have the guts to do it anymore. I wasn't a straight A student, I wasn't white, he had a whole list of reasons as to why I wouldn't get into Penn, and sure enough, on December 12, 2012, I showed him wrong, but that's another story. Mr. Arms believed in me from the get, and he definitely, while he was on campus because he traveled a lot, made my experience at Deerfield so much easier, and for that, I couldn't be more thankful. Those two definitely changed the way I thought about the world. They challenged their students to do the same, and especially just making their homes open and making me part of their families, like knowing Francois's husband and considering him an uncle, and knowing Mr. Arms's wife and 2 children, like considering them family, it really brought together the family aspect at Deerfield. Like it made it feel like I wasn't alone in this endeavor.
Were there any other students who you felt like didn't find those connections on campus? And if so, what happened to them?
Definitely. I remember, there are 2 that I remember clearly. One, he was from California, didn't really know where he fit in when he got to Deerfield, and got into a bad crowd. So Deerfield is a great place, but we do have day students, and they have access to other things that we don't, so we're not completely sheltered. And drugs become a thing in high school, and that just happens. And so he got caught with marijuana and ended up leaving. People tried to vouch for him, but there's not much you can do when a student sort of chooses that they don't want to be here anymore. And then the other, see, these stories actually make me feel like you can have the greatest support system and still go wrong, in a sense. So another boy, a year younger than me, he came in, was just awesome at everything that he did, had one other black teacher who just changed his life, I know that for a fact, but when an administration sort of sees you as a problem and can't shake the image of you being a problem on this campus, and when that problem is in the form of a young black man, it does get harder, and there's not you can't pay someone off to keep you here. He can't. So comparison, I had a friend who is a white boy from Rhode Island, got sent to the disciplinary committee for drinking during break. He had a 3-day suspension and was back in school. Other guy, I think he got into a minor argument with someone about some words. Like, just, he had been attacked with a racial slur. He said something else. It ended up being his fault in a way. He ended up leaving. So that's the story as I remember it. That might be wrong in case Deerfield sees this. But my point being that if you don't have the financial resources, and if you're not proving to be adequate in all different spaces, you gotta go.